You move into the old house in November. It's the kind of place people describe as cozy, small, a little drafty, but with sunlight that drifts in through the front window every afternoon. The carpets are nearly white, not quite, but in the evening they look soft. You like touching them with your bare feet, noticing all the tiny grooves and ridges beneath your toes. The walls are thin, and you can sometimes hear your neighbor's television or the rumble of a distant car out on the lane. Still, when the sun sets, that noise drops away, and you're left with just the quiet. You settle into your new life with a kind of tired relief. The house isn't modern, not quite orderly, but you can feel yourself relaxing as you unpack your boxes at a slow pace. You notice the way the murmurs of the street fade out at night. That's the first sign, really, the deep, utter quiet of the place after dark, as if the world folds up outside your windows when you're under the covers. Your bed is low to the ground, an old pine frame with a single mattress, covered with a heavy blue comforter. You like how warm it feels at night, the way the covers weigh against your chest. For the first few days, you sleep deeply. You wake to the shifting gold in the windows and the odd scrape of branches against the glass. Sometimes, in the evenings, you watch old movies with the volume down low, or you read while sipping warm tea. You pad around the small hallway, touching the worn banister. Everything seems normal, a little faded maybe, but safe. It's on the fourth night that you notice something different. You're lying on your back, eyes half closed. The house hums with its usual, soft stillness. From somewhere very near, you hear a faint scuffling. It's quiet, almost easy to ignore, like the sound of distant water running or a pet shifting in sleep. You blink, wondering if you've drifted into a dream. But you haven't. The sound is coming from just beneath your bed, something is moving, slow and careful, brushing against the wooden slats. You wait, holding your breath. There's nothing more. When you get out of bed and bend down to look underneath, there's only darkness, lined with your winter shoes and a cardboard box of old books. You don't find anything odd, although for a moment, you think the shadows look deeper than they should. In the morning, you almost laugh about it. Maybe it was the house settling, or a branch tapping against the siding, or a mouse wandering where it shouldn't. You make coffee, crack open a window, and let the thought slide away with the fresh air. Still, as you pad back through your room, you glance at the bed every now and then. Just to check. Each night, your routine stays the same. You drink your tea, maybe watch television, brush your teeth, and pull the covers up close. And every night, as soon as you flick off your bedside lamp, you find yourself listening. The silence settles on your chest, a little heavier each time. You start catching softer sounds under the bed, just out of reach, like the rustle of paper, the faintest tap tap tap. It's never loud, never frantic. There's a rhythm to it, like breathing or the turning of a clock hand. After a while, you start to dread it, but you can't ignore it either. You mention it to a friend on the phone. You're careful not to sound strange. It's probably just the pipes, she says. Old houses have weird noises. Mice maybe. You nod, agreeing, feeling foolish about the way your voice lowered to a whisper. But when you hang up, that feeling lingers. A week passes. The pattern stays the same. The house is always quiet, especially at 3 in the morning, when the dark feels dense and the only light is a cut of moon on the wall. You lie awake some nights, staring at the ceiling, listening to that same subtle scuffling. You start making up names for the noises. Maybe it's the wood drying out, or the wind shuffling dust. You try to convince yourself there's nothing there. Still, you check under your bed every morning, telling yourself it's just to grab a pair of socks but lingering anyway, looking for something that never turns up. One night, you decide to set your phone on record, just to be sure you're not imagining things. You wedge it lightly between your bed frame and the carpet, heart picking up with a hush of embarrassment mixed with hope. In the morning, the recording sounds empty. Just hours of normal, soft hush, punctuated by your own breathing. No tapping. No movement. Promise yourself you won't do it again, but at night, the sound returns, just as faint as ever. You start noticing other small things. Shadows under the bed seem a little darker when you wake up during the night. Sometimes your shoes are out of order, as if nudged or prodded gently. You find a silver button from your coat on the floor, though you could have dropped it anywhere. The changes are too small to be sure of. You sweep the floor, move your shoes back and forth, and try to retrace your steps. Still, you grow careful about where you put things. You start leaving pairs of socks under the bed, just to see. In the morning, they're always there, never quite where you thought they'd be, always close but just slightly out of place. Sometimes, as you're dropping off to sleep, you lie perfectly still, breathing slow and shallow. The noise is always soft, not urgent. It doesn't sound like claws, not really. Just something shifting in the dark, with you, beneath you. Sometimes, you get up and turn on your lamp, staring into the dust and the shoes and the corners of your books. Nothing. You crawl back in, heart thudding until the quiet returns, heavier than before. You try to mention it again, offhand, to a neighbor in the stairwell. "Do you ever hear things at night?" you ask. She blinks at you with polite surprise, shakes her head, and says she sleeps deeply. "This place is dead quiet," she adds. The words echo in your mind through the evening. You eat dinner in silence, watching the shadows of leaves wrinkle on your walls as the night creeps in. You make a new routine of checking under the bed. The first time you try it, you laugh at yourself, joking out loud, "Nothing here." But as nights pass, the laughter feels thinner. You start using your phone's flashlight, slow and careful movements tracing the floor. Always empty. Yet you lie awake at night, listening to the gentle scratch and slide just a foot below where you rest. You wonder what might happen if you simply ignored it. One night, you push the covers up high over your head and try to will yourself not to care. The sound grows very faint, then stops. But you find yourself unable to move, frozen in a tight cocoon of cloth and unease. Sleep comes eventually, but it's shallow, broken by uneasy dreams of things slipping along the floor, brushing past your hands. Your mornings blur together. You find yourself glancing down more, pausing at the side of your bed before stepping away. At breakfast, you stare out the window and wonder if anyone else in your building feels watched at night. The days pass uneventfully. The shops are still open, the rain still lashes against the glass on some afternoons, and your life seems unchanged, except you can't ever quite banish that late-night noise from your mind. After a few weeks, you finally say something to your friend with more urgency. It sounds like something moving. Under my bed. Every night. She tries to comfort you, tells you it's nothing, that you're just tired. You're in a new place. You'll get used to it. You try to believe her, but even she sounds distracted, half listening. That night, the scratching comes earlier, just after midnight. You close your eyes and listen. It's almost like breathing, slow and continuous. Sometimes it pauses. Sometimes, you feel sure it's matching your own breaths, as if whatever is under there is listening back. You lie as still as you can manage, counting your heartbeats, straining to hear more, but the sound never grows, never fades. It just remains, a soft, unwelcome heartbeat in the silence beneath your bed. You never find anything, never see any sign. But the fear settles deeper after each night, quiet but certain. Something is moving under the bed, and only you seem to know. The days stretch into weeks as winter deepens. Every evening, dusk comes a little sooner, and shadows gather along your hallway and behind thick curtains. You start noticing how the sunlight dims more quickly now, how each night seems to last just a little longer. There's a rhythm to your routine now. You check under your bed before climbing in, more from habit than real hope, and you try to settle into sleep as best you can. The sound returns each night, always the same. It's never loud, never sharp, just a soft movement, a shifting weight. Sometimes it scratches at the wooden slats or brushes your books, so quiet you can't quite believe it's there. But you know it is, as certain as you know you're not sleeping well anymore. You've doubled up your blankets and placed one more pillow between yourself and the outside world, but nothing really helps. Some nights you count your breaths, one after another, until you lose track and start again, hoping distraction can still your nerves. Your days grow quieter, too. Friends call, but you let the phone ring out sometimes. You go for walks along empty streets where the cold wind nips at your ears and your thoughts seem to echo with every step. You find yourself glancing back at your house more often, watching your own windows as if trying to see yourself from a distance. Inside, you tiptoe around corners and keep the hall light on longer than you used to, looking over your shoulder without meaning to. It isn't dread, not exactly, it's more like waiting for something you can't name. The patterns intensify. After dinner, you wash your single plate, dry it, and set it down. The radio hums in the background but offers no real comfort. You brush your teeth, watch your face in the mirror, and make yourself smile at nothing in particular. All the motions of sleep prepare you for the same slow ritual. You switch off the lights, climb into bed, and listen for the smallest sound. Tonight, there's a new detail. You're nearly asleep, eyes closed but mind just floating when you sense it, the faintest indrawn breath, not your own. Not a sigh, not a word, just the faint pull of air from under the bed. It stops when you move, returns when you lie still. Your body tenses. You listen for hours, unsure if there's really anything to hear, but when you strain hard enough, it sounds like the slow shuffling of someone getting comfortable under there, inch by inch. You start tracking the sounds. You keep a notebook by your bed now, jotting down times: scratch, 1:04 a.m., soft scrape, 2:11 a.m., breath, 3:17 a.m. You don't show the notebook to anyone, you barely look back at the notes yourself. Patterns form anyway. The noises usually come after midnight. The breaths are more common around 3. Sometimes, you think you see small changes in your belongings by morning: dust displaced, a slipper moved by a few inches. The isolation grows sharper. You rarely speak to your neighbors anymore. You hear them in the stairwell, muffled laughter or footsteps, but nobody mentions the strange quiet that has settled around you every night. You wonder if they simply sleep more deeply, or if they've learned not to notice. When you do go out, winter's ice has thickened on the sidewalks, and you focus on your feet, counting cracks and avoiding patches of black ice. The world outside feels less real than the room you return to every evening, the only place you can truly observe what happens when darkness falls. At night, you sometimes try to fight the panic by leaving music playing softly. But no melody is strong enough to drown out the near silence, and before long, you switch off the sound, feeling somehow watched. It's as if the presence under the bed waits for you to settle, pauses to let you believe in your own calm, then resumes its slow, careful shifting just as your breathing starts to deepen. One evening, when you gather your courage, you buy traps and line them along the baseboards, imagining mice or insects. You scatter flour under the bed, hoping to spot footprints by morning. Nothing is disturbed. No marks, no dust displaced except by your own hands. It's as if the thing you hear leaves no trace at all, except in your mind, winding itself tighter each night. Sleep now comes in thin layers. You lie on your side, the quilt pulled up to your chin, eyes open to the darkness. Sometimes you think you hear a faint voice, a murmur too low to make out words, just a plaintive, humming whisper that fits between the natural sounds of the house. You strain and listen, but you never catch what it says. Eventually, you stop telling anyone about your nights. When friends ask how you're sleeping, you just nod, smile, and change the subject. It feels easier to let them believe everything is fine, to pretend you're just getting used to the new house. You can't shake the feeling that if you try to explain again, no one will not only believe you, but might even start to treat you differently, as if you're brittle or foolish or lost in your own head. Sometimes you wonder if you're imagining it all, if your mind is playing tricks as the nights stretch longer and longer. But in the silence, you're sure something is moving down there, slow and careful, always waiting for you to settle. The fear is never sharp, not a panic, more like the slow tightening of a string, deeper each night. You think about sleeping in another room, or even on the couch. Something stops you every time, the sense that you belong here, that leaving would only make the darkness follow you, climb under wherever you choose to rest. This is its place now, too. On a Friday night, snow starts falling. The streetlights outside paint long shadows across your ceiling. You listen to the usual creaks and sighs. Eventually, you fall asleep and wake, heart pounding, at 3 in the morning. Something new has shifted in the dark. This time, you hear a faint series of knocks, 3 in a row, coming from the floorboards under your bed. The sound is impossibly soft, but definite, steady as a heartbeat. You freeze, count the knocks, and feel a wave of cold pass over you nearly as deep as the silence that returns. You want to call out, to ask if anyone is there, but your throat closes tight. Instead, you wait, eyes wide, and listen into the dark. After this, the patterns change. The scratches and breaths remain, but now there are the knocks, always 3, sometimes more than once a night. You don't write them down. Some things don't need notes. You begin to notice that the knocks sometimes match your own movements. If you shift a knee, a knock follows. If you turn toward the window, another pause, then a knock from below. It's as if whatever lives under the bed is watching, mimicking, learning all the ways you keep yourself calm. You keep telling yourself nothing has changed. You eat quietly, you drink your tea, you watch the world from your window as it grows colder and darker, snow banking up under the eaves. But nothing feels entirely safe anymore. You check under the bed twice before sleeping. You position your bedside lamp to shine into every shadow, but the darkness always wins in the end. No matter what, when the light goes off, you can hear the small shift and shuffle return, patient as ever. And so the nights move on, one after another, unchanged except for the steady sense of growing attention from the thing beneath you. You wonder, every morning, if it remembers you too. You lose track of the days as winter thickens. Gray afternoons blend into heavy nights, each one punctuated by the quiet movements below. You begin to feel cut off, like the world outside your window is a fading picture rather than a place you can go. Shadows linger in the corners of your room even during the day, crawling out earlier and lingering longer. You have grown used to this subtle threat, but it seeps deeper now, into your bones, into your patterns of thought. Your bedtime rituals take on a nervous edge. You shuffle your slippers, shake out your covers, and check the corners under the bed both before and after turning off the light. The search is always fruitless. Your heart pounds anyway, as if your body is remembering what your conscious mind is still trying to forget. You catch yourself staring at the floorboards, watching how the moonlight pools underneath. You feel almost watched, as if eyes from the darkness follow your every movement with slow interest. You try sleeping with the light on, but the pale glow only makes new shadows. You lie awake, tracing the lines in the ceiling, and imagine them extending downward, like cracks leading to something waiting just inches beneath you. When you finally succumb to exhaustion, you fall into shallow, disjointed dreams. Sometimes you dream about crawling things, faceless shapes slipping under the door, the weight of invisible hands pressing down from beneath the mattress. Every night, the sounds become more complex. You begin to distinguish between the soft shuffle, the delicate scratch, and the slow inhale. It's almost orderly, almost comforting in its predictability, which makes the sudden pauses all the more unsettling. Occasionally, everything goes silent, no noise at all, and these moments are worse than the sounds themselves. It's as if the absence of noise is a test, a challenge for you to notice the quiet before the scratching slowly resumes. Your friends stop calling as often. You hear laughter in other apartments, footsteps overhead, the distant music drifting in from the street, but these connections feel remote, unreachable. You try to remind yourself that other people have problems, too, that not everyone can hear what you hear in the dark. You wonder sometimes if one day you will invite someone over, just to prove the noises are real. But the thought of someone else lying in your bed while you wait for the sound together, somehow, that is even worse. You try to distract yourself during the days by cleaning. You sweep and mop the floors, dust the furniture, wipe down every surface again and again. You clear under the bed more than you should, taking out your boxes, stacking your shoes, touching the walls with your hands. Nothing turns up. The dust clings to your fingers, but no evidence, no explanation. Sometimes, you whisper aloud to the empty air, telling whatever hides beneath to go away, to leave you alone. Your voice sounds small in the large, quiet house. You start to doubt your own senses. Isolating the noise becomes a task of memory, telling yourself which nights it came sooner, which nights it lasted longer, which nights it seemed to imitate your movements. You wonder if your mind is changing, tuning itself to expect a threat that may not exist. Still, the sensations persist. Every night, as you lie in the dark, you feel the mattress subtly shift, just enough for you to know you are not alone. A few times, you catch a smell, damp earth, like old wood or forgotten basements, wafting from the edge of your bed. You lean over, press your nose to the floor, but the scent is gone again, replaced by stale air. On the coldest nights, you wake to find your sheets slightly pulled downward, like a weak tug from below. Your possessions under the bed have started to change places. Books you left neatly stacked are knocked over, boxes inched closer to the edge. You rearrange them with shaking hands, unable to accept that you might remember things wrong. One evening, after a relentlessly gray day, you stay up late, too afraid to sleep. You sit on the edge of your bed, feet hovering just above the carpet, straining to hear any hint of a noise. Your mind starts to wander, imagining what if, imagining a hand reaching from below, a face peering up at you through the thin mattress. You shake yourself, try to laugh, but the sound is brittle. Your isolation grows heavier. You speak less, answer texts with one-word replies. Your email inbox fills with messages you don't want to answer. The world shrinks to the dimensions of your bed, the foot of space beneath it, and the thick, still air inside your room at 3 in the morning. You realize you are waiting for something, waiting for the next step, for the sound to change, for the movements to breach the small, invisible boundary between underneath and above. On a night thick with wind and the sound of sleet against the roof, the routine breaks. You hear the now familiar shuffling, then a dragging sound, rough and slow, passing the width of the bed. This time, it feels closer, heavier. You freeze, imagining weight pressing through the mattress. Silence follows, then a clawing noise, slow and deliberate, scraping against the wooden slats just beneath your ribs. You cannot move. The seconds drag into minutes. Eventually, exhaustion wins, and you find yourself drifting somewhere uncertain between waking and sleep. You dream of narrow passages and damp stone, endless space beneath your room, filled with shifting forms that melt away into blackness as soon as you try to see them properly. You wake to find the covers undone. A book is lying by the edge of your bed, open to a page you do not remember. The room feels wrong, colder and darker than before. You pull the covers tight, but somehow nothing feels secure anymore. You know, as surely as you know your own name, that something is aware of you now, not just present, but attentive, watching you even as you pretend to ignore it. That night, you think you hear a voice. At first you dismiss it, a trick of the wind, a creak in the house. But the voice returns, so soft you cannot make out the words, just the cadence, a slow repetitive mumbling that matches your own heartbeat. It fades in and out, as if coming from far below. The next morning, your chest aches with fear, and you spend the whole day on edge, waiting for something to happen, for the next sign from beneath. Your world narrows. You sleep less, eat little, move around your house with careful steps. When you pass the bed, you catch yourself watching for movement in the narrow gap between the mattress and the floor. In the late evening, as you sit beside your bed, you start to feel that the air itself has thickened, as if all your unease has become part of the space, part of the dark mass pressed up against the underside of your room. You begin to fear sleep most of all, not for the nightmares, but for what might move in the silence while you drift, defenseless. You place heavy objects at the foot of the bed. You wedge a chair against the frame. In the morning, they are undisturbed, but you know they make no difference. The thing beneath the bed has settled in, growing bolder, patient but unstoppable, wedded to the slow, methodical passage of your evenings. As winter's darkness grows, you realize you are no longer just afraid at night. You feel uneasy during the day, whenever you stand alone in your room. You startle at every noise, every creak. You dream of empty rooms and shifting shapes, of a darkness that listens and waits. You begin to think that the thing under the bed is learning you, the pattern of your breathing, the restless way you shift under the blankets, the precise moment when you give in to sleep. It is waiting for something. And so are you. By midwinter, your sense of time feels thin, stretched across endless silent nights and daylit hours that pass almost unnoticed. Snow covers the street outside, muting sound, wrapping the neighborhood in a blanket of hush. You move through your days in a slow, careful routine, focusing on simple things, washing dishes, closing windows, folding laundry again and again. But each night, when darkness falls and you climb into bed, you find yourself pausing before you lie down, listening for the breath and shuffle below. The knocking has become part of your life. Always 3, sometimes more if you shift too much or breathe too quickly, but never loud. It's softer now, as if aware you are listening more closely, as if trying to blend in with the natural sounds of the night. The scuffling, the murmurs, the subtle tugging at the edge of your covers, they all slip into the rhythm of your evenings. You start to accept their presence, even as it unsettles you. One night, as you lie in the dark, snow ticking softly outside, you sense something shift. The sounds under the bed start up as usual, oddly reassuring now in their regularity. You close your eyes, drifting in that space between waking and sleep, listening to the hush punctuated by movement below. Then, with a patience that chills you, the noise stops. There's a long stretch of nothing, longer than you're used to. Your heart beats faster. You open your eyes to the dark. You lie there, trying not to breathe too loudly. The silence is so complete it feels heavy. You resist the urge to call out, to break the spell. Instead, you stay very still. For the first time, you feel a presence settle up through the mattress, not through noise, but through a focused, waiting attention. It's as if the quiet itself is listening for you now. Your mind races with all the things you've done to try to keep yourself safe: traps, flour, moving objects, always vigilant, always waiting for proof. But now, proof doesn't matter. Whatever is beneath you knows you're there. It knows your routines, your breathing, your footsteps, your fear. You remember every detail of the past months with slow realization: the subtle movement of socks, the knocks that matched your heartbeats, how your friends stopped reaching out. You think of all the times you watched the light fade, hoping for some reassurance, and how the room always settled back into darkness, hugging you close. It's not just about fear anymore. It's about the way you have been watched, learned, understood. You realize with a chill that the thing under your bed might have always been here, long before you moved in, waiting patiently for someone to notice it. Now that you have, neither of you can unlearn the pattern you share each night. The silence presses in around you until it forms the only real sound you can sense. Softly, you feel a slight dip in the mattress, as if a weight has shifted beneath it. No voice, no form, just a confirmable, undeniable presence. You don't scream, you don't run. You lie very still, listening to your own slow breaths as they mingle with the hush from below. Outside, dawn is still far off. The darkness shapes itself around you, comforting and oppressive. You think you understand now. The thing under the bed was never trying to scare you. It was only waiting to be noticed, to share the silence, to watch together through the lonely hours of the night. You drift in that space between sleep and wakefulness, uncertain which side you prefer. The last thing you feel before darkness closes in is a gentle, rhythmic pressure from beneath, a heartbeat, of sorts, matching your own. The world is quiet, the house holds its breath, and in the end, you realize you're never truly alone in the dark.